far as what I'm going to be working on today, pretty much come to a stopping point on this front stub. The rear stub, I'm still waiting for the original Corvette frame rail so that I can get my control arm mount locations. So we're kind of at a standstill on that as well. And while there are things that I can do to the body, plenty of work there, and I could even possibly start trying to connect the floor pan frame section with the front frame stub. I would like to hold off on that until it's all together in almost one piece again, i.e. the rear subframe is back in position. So I've kind of come to a stopping point on this for this weekend, I think, because I don't have any more parts coming in until early next week. What I'm gonna work on today is making a piece of floor pan for a project that's been sitting in here for like over a year now, and I'm sure some of you are wondering if I'm ever gonna finish it. The answer is yes. The one major thing that has been holding me up on that has been, I've been a little unhappy with the way my bead roller is able to bend 90-degree angles. I get a really rounded kind of corner that requires a lot of hammer and dolly work to make it kind of crisp, and it was just turning me off to the whole project. So I've picked up a tool that I feel is gonna assist me greatly in forming floor pan pieces and other pieces of sheet metal that need nice, crisp 90-degree angles bent into them. And today we're gonna go ahead and make a large portion of the floor pan for my COE build that I started last year. The 51 COE cab. It's been sitting on my workbench here for over a year now. Stalled out after making the firewall and the toe board sections. And as some of you may remember, I had a little bit of trouble with my back cab repair panel section. Welded it in too hot, shrunk a lot of metal, and then made that planishing hammer and hammered the crap out of it, stretched it too much, created a lot of waviness in the back panel. Then I started trying to shrink it with a torch, and it just started getting pretty hairy. It's hasn't changed much since then. Back panel is still very wavy, but I've come to the conclusion that, you know, I ain't building this to sell, and it's not the end of the world to me that it's not perfect. Everything I'm doing here is all a learning experience. So what I'm gonna go ahead and do is I'm gonna leave my rear cab repair section, even though it's not perfect, and I'm just gonna work with it. My plan for the truck anyways is to put a wedge bed on it, so you're never gonna see it anyways. I know that's the wrong attitude to take with anything you're doing. You should try and do it to the best of your ability, but when I did that, that was the best of my ability. I learned a lot from it though, and on future projects, I'm definitely gonna apply what I learned, but for now, I'm just gonna rock it. It is what it is. You know, I have 2 more COEs out there that I plan to do something with eventually, hopefully. But for now, we're gonna worry about getting a major piece of the floor section made for this, and I think it's gonna be a fairly straightforward section to make. Let me show you what the game plan is. All right, so basically, the cab gets wider as it goes towards the back, and all we're really gonna have to do here, I'm gonna take a measurement from here to here, and then I'm gonna do the same back here towards the door jambs. Now, I'm gonna lower the table down and do some cleanup work back here because we have some old metal that needs to come off. But once we get all that off, we're gonna create almost this entire section here. It's not gonna go all the way back to my cab repair. We'll have to make another piece for that. But I think this piece will probably only take us a few hours to make. I'll be able to fold these sides down and make these folded over edges here with my new Harbor Freight metal brake that I got here. It's a 36-inch model. It's a little bit smaller than I wanted, but I don't really have the room for like a 48-inch one or larger anyways. So I'm gonna make this work, and we are going to make a floor pan section. So let's get started. And I'll tell you, every time I start looking at this thing, I just get this feeling of like, man, what have I gotten myself into? Um, Getting the major things done, like tearing out the floor sections, you know, is relatively easy and straightforward. And then you start to run into the little things where whoever owned this before me started adding patches over rotted out sections without cutting anything out, and it just stacked metal on top of metal. And you're looking at it like, God, I have to cut this out before I can add this in, and it just gets it can become very overwhelming very quickly in your head. And one thing that you just have to remember is to just do one thing at a time until you get to where you need to go. Here's an example. This is the back corner of the door, obviously. Well, not the door, but where the door goes. And you can see rot holes, pieces of metal just stacked over old metal and welded in there. This piece right here is just a piece laid over, welded on, and grinded down. Same with a lot of the door jamb section here. All this piece is gonna have to be replaced. And fortunately, I think all I'm gonna have to do before I start making my floor pan section is removing this excess metal that's stacked up in here, because that's gonna mess up our measurement as far as what we need from this side to this side. And you can see I've already started tearing it off right here. The nice thing is once you start to get it separated, it kind of pulls apart pretty easily, because whoever did this work, well, they just didn't do it well. All right, I went ahead and cleaned off all those extra layers of metal as best I could, trying to leave as much of the original sheet metal as I can to get good measurements. That side didn't work out too hot. This side actually came out pretty decent. I was able to peel it off without much effort. The guy liked to weld a little cold, but if some of you will remember, when I first got this thing, all this rear section had, you know, been repaired before, and I don't even know what the cab would have looked like originally, so I had no reference as to what direction I should be going in. Now, fortunately, I happen to have picked up 2 more COEs of the same generation, and I'm really glad I did, because it's given me kind of a reference point as far as what I should be planning on doing. That's not to say that I'm going to do exactly the way it was originally. I'm going to simplify it some for my own purposes, but let me show you what these areas would look like in a truck that was original. Got a 49 and a 50. And you know, this was actually very surprising to me, the way it comes here and then drops down. I had no idea that it was gonna be like that. This is the section of floor pan that we're gonna actually work on fabricating today. Back to the door jamb section here. And that's probably about the place it'll stop. Here's the deal. Measurement of our toe board section right here where it ends, 52 1/4. Measurement where the door jamb starts, 57 3/4. And the distance from the end of our toe board section here to where the door jamb starts is 18 5/8. Now, when we draw those 3 measurements down on our piece of sheet metal that we're gonna cut out, that's gonna essentially give us exactly the angles that this piece of floor pan is going to be traveling at, and it should fit in here perfectly once we get the edges folded over. So let's go drag out our piece of sheet metal there and start doing some layout. Okay, so before I get started laying this out, we have to remember that I'm going to be folding edges over, and the edges that are going to match up to our toe board, and also the rear portion that's going to run parallel with the back of the cab. Those edges are going to be a 1/2 inch each, so we're going to add an extra inch overall to this dimension of 18 5/8, so we'll be at 19 5/8. Now for the other side, we're going to have to go and take a measurement real quick and find out exactly how tall that piece of floorboard is that comes up from the rocker panel that I showed you in that other cab. So let's go grab that measurement real quick. It's about 5 5/8 inches on each side. So we're gonna add both of those together, and then we're gonna add the number we get from that to each of our dimensions, from measurement from close to the toe board and the measurement at the door jamb. And I went ahead and did that, and what we've got is 63.5 and 68.5 inches, and by 19 5/8 inches. So that's going to be our overall dimension. And actually, as a matter of fact, I'm not going to go just to the front of the door jamb, so I'm going to add an extra couple of inches to this measurement, 18 5/8 as well. I'm going to go check what it's going to be real quick. I think it's probably going to be about 3 inches. All right, this is our basic pattern. You can see I just made the rectangle at 68.5 inches, and then I calculated how many inches 63.5 is less than 68, which is 5, and split that in half, which gave us 2.5 inches on each side. We had to bring this line in, and now we have the exact angle that the cab measures from the toe board to beyond the door jambs. And actually I might have screwed up. Okay, on second thought, I'm making a mistake here. I should have gone with the original measurement of 18 5/8 from here to there in order to get the correct angle that we're going to need on this, and then this angle should have just shot on past the 18 5/8 to 22 5/8 from this edge. So we're going to redo this real quick. All right, so this is the exact size that the floor pan section we're gonna make is gonna be. Now, unfortunately, I screwed up again because when I was laying this out, I should have spaced it up off of this edge about 1 inch, maybe a 1/2 inch, so that I left enough room for the flange I was gonna have on this side. So let's do it one more time. All right, so the good news is that this layout is not a total loss. I can still use the marks I've made here and here for our overall width. We're just gonna have to move it up a 1/2 inch so that we have that flange we're gonna need down here. All right, now I have my 1/2 inch flange on each side. We're gonna go ahead and cut this piece off, and then we will worry about figuring out the extra 2.5 inches on each side over here and over there. Well, sure as shit, I screwed up again. The overall dimension of this panel, 19 5/8, and if you'll remember, I said I wanted to add about 3 inches to go beyond the door jamb. Now, it's not the end of the world. We have to make another piece anyways to fill in that area, so I'm not gonna cry about it, but definitely screwed up. All right, nonetheless, we're not gonna do it on the width, which is the actual very important part. So we're gonna go ahead and lay out the extra couple of inches we're gonna need on each side to cover the rocker area. And then we'll go ahead and get the excess cut off. All right, like the old saying goes, measure twice, cut once. All right. I'm gonna change directions on this real quick. And the reason why is because I was thinking at first, you know what, I won't have a problem bead rolling this long side. But the more I think about it, it would just be easier to cut it in half, make two pieces, and then weld the flanges together in the center. And it'll also make the panel a lot more manageable to bead roll the design into. So what I'm gonna do is space each line that we've drawn on the far outer edges out another 1/2 inch. Yeah, we're gonna go another 1/2 inch out on each side, which will give us a total of 1 inch in the center, or 1/2 inch on each side, so we can fold it over and create another flange here. So I'm gonna do that real quick, then we'll get the excess cut off, and then we'll start bending these up. All right, we got our two pieces cut out, and now we're gonna go ahead and transfer the 1/2 inch we added on each side to the center. And before we bend any of this, we're gonna draw up a design of what we want on the floorboard and get that rolled in. And now that we've got them all cut up, I'm gonna get off my knees and bring these two pieces over to the table so that we can come up with a design, and then we'll throw them in the bead roller. All right, this is the design I'm going with. I know there's getting to be so many dang lines on here. I'm probably gonna forget which one I'm following and screw up. Let's keep our fingers crossed that that doesn't happen. I'm gonna do these kind of rounded corner triangles on each piece, 2 triangles, and I'm gonna use a step die. So let's swap out the dies on the bead roller and get rolling. Well, as usual, today is one of those learning experiences. And I should know this from prior experience with the firewall, which I screwed up in exactly the same fashion. But my bead roller is too small to turn this panel in here. And I did a little preliminary test earlier, and I was like, okay, cool, I'll be able to do it. And then I got to a curve, and sure as shit, I can't turn the panel. And then, to top it off, I jumped over to another side to start that edge, and the joggle somehow or another flipped on me, and it joggled the panel in the other direction. So I have to figure out a way I can flatten this back out as best I can, and then we're just gonna put some simple bead rolls in it. Getting very frustrated with myself for a minute there, and then I realized that I have this beautiful English wheel hanging off my wall, and I went ahead and put the flattest die I have on there, and I ran the panel through just one time already, and minus a pretty nice dig mark from the bead roller, it's flattened out the bead that we've put in there. So it's not the end of the world. We're gonna go ahead and smooth out the rest of it, and then we'll start over. Well, it's safe to say that sheet metal is not my forte. Definitely a hell of a lot better at framework than I am bead rolling, but that's just a matter of practice, I guess. So what I'm gonna do I'm gonna go ahead and still use the joggle dies, but I'm just gonna do the outside perimeter of this rectangle, and then on the interior panel we'll do an X with regular beads, just like I did on the toe boards. Well, they damn sure ain't perfect, but especially on a couple corners, I ran into an issue where as I was feeding it through, this would catch on the pillow bearing and it would just continue to go straight instead of turn. That's why you can kind of see an imperfection there, an imperfection here. But you know what? I'm just happy that I was able to save that first panel. All right, this is my finished design, revised finished design. And I haven't done the other one yet completely. I haven't done the X, but I am gonna go ahead and throw this into my brake so that I can test it out. Well, today is turning out to be full of lessons. I'm gonna go ahead and roll the X into the other panel because I'm like 100% sure that the long side has to be bent last if I want to be able to do all four sides in the brake, and I'm still not 100% sure if that's even true. So I'm gonna go ahead and run the X in it, and then we're gonna try it that way and see what happens, because I am tempted to bend that back down and try and do the long sides first, but I don't want to do that and then find out it was a waste of time anyways. So we're gonna experiment with this panel. All right, now you can see this is where I'm running into a problem. The brake needs about a 1/2 inch to clamp down, and if I cut a 1/2 inch off of this, I don't think it would be the end of the world, but it's not really what I want to do. So I'm gonna have to think about this for a second. Cut a 1/2 inch off of the folded over flanges in order to be able to clamp down on it. All right, well, I didn't have a whole lot of options. What I did on one side, I went ahead and notched out 3/4 of an inch. And as I started to do the other side, I realized I had made a major mistake by actually cutting along the bend there, because all I had to do was just notch it, fold it flat, and then now I can hammer it back up and I'll still have the entire flange. So unfortunately on this side, we'll just have to lay down a couple tack welds to attach it to the other panel that it's supposed to connect with. Again, I'm not gonna cry about it. This is not like the end of the world. Everything's still gonna work out. We're just learning. See, just like that. Back in action on that piece. And I'll probably end up doing that on this side as well so I can get this edge folded up. A couple things worth pointing out, I figure. Even after redoing my design 3 or 4 times, I still screwed it up. It's not the end of the world because we just have some overhang here that we're gonna have to trim off. But I did, however, miss a section of this corner that's also not a big deal. You know, none of this is a big deal. It's all easily remedied. But I'm just pointing out some of the things that I'm running into, so in case anybody else is ever attempting something like this, you can learn from my mistakes. Now, in regards to this panel, I think I am gonna go ahead and flatten out the long side, just so we can get the other sides bent first, and we will be wrapping this up here very shortly. I'm gonna go ahead and use the clamping action of the brake in order to take a lot of this bend out of the panel. So we're just gonna clamp right onto that 90 that we made. Out, a little bit forward some, and do the same thing again. Oh, that didn't work at all. It just gave us a nice curve. So back to the drawing board. Panel is pretty warped at this point. I went ahead and just threw it on the ground and stepped on the point to kind of flatten it out as much as I could. We're gonna throw these 90s into it and worry about that once we get this done. What a nightmare. All right. Well, this thing is... Let's see now. All right, what I'm gonna try and do is just bend it back by hand as best as I can. And hopefully that takes a lot of the warpage out of it. Not. Well, it ain't perfect, but not much on this thing is, so what can I say? Could be worse. Okay. Now what I'm gonna do is go ahead and give us those 3/4 inch notches and fold these flat. And we will be done with this panel, and we can do the same with the other. And then we can finally wake up from this nightmare. Moment of truth. I'm gonna see if both pieces fit in there fairly close to what they're supposed to. Oh no. There we go. Oh no, what did I do here? I folded one backwards. Oh. Okay, well. I don't know what the heck I was thinking. I guess today it's just not my day. Somehow I ended up bending one panel, or folding the flanges on one panel in the complete wrong direction, so I have two panels for one side. It's fixable. We're gonna have to flatten the edges back out, stick it back in the brake, and fold them the other way. It's probably gonna make the bends a little weak, but you know, we'll try it. If the panel starts to tear, we'll start over. It is what it is. I'm happy with the way this one looks fitting in here. It is not quite reaching the center of the other panel, which is kind of concerning for me. But yeah, I don't know what to say. It's gonna call it a day for today, and I will post this video tonight, and I'm gonna do another video tomorrow, but it's not gonna be working on anything. I'm actually gonna go and visit somebody's shop, so y'all are gonna want to catch that video. I'm sure of it, because he builds some super badass stuff. So sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. Today I lose. I'll catch you guys later. Now I know y'all didn't think I was a quitter. Hey, I had to take this panel and completely flatten out all the bends, and let me tell you, when you go to bend it in the other direction after bending it one way, it does not want to bend the same. And our corners are evidence of that. They're about as round as they would have been if I did it on the bead roller in the first place. But it's done and it fits. You know, I actually had to pull this piece back off as well and take a half an inch out of the rocker panel here and add it in here, because when I added the flange for the center section here, I completely forgot to take it out of this, and that's why I had a half-inch gap from the center here. But it's good. I mean, I'm happy with the outcome. It's not perfect, but like I keep saying, nothing on this thing is, but I am learning a hell of a lot. So that's pretty good progress for today. I'm stoked on it, even though I made so many mistakes. Lessons learned. And with that, seriously, tune in tomorrow because you're gonna wanna see some of these hot rods. I'll see you guys later. I would like to mention, without this English wheel and this flat radius die, there is no way that I would have been able to flatten out those bends enough. Well, I probably could have flattened them enough because I did most of that with a hammer, but when it came to smoothing it out, to making it a nice flat piece of steel again, it would have been impossible without my English wheel here. So that is a super vital piece to my puzzle here. And I'm super glad that I have it, even though I use it very seldom. But hopefully that'll change in the future here. I know I'm gonna be using it when I make the roof panel for that 29 Ford. And I really, I'm hoping to get really proficient at it, because this is an art form and I wanna get good at it.